Hi and welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you will enjoy the following video. It's my first video on my YouTube channel. Now, I struggled a lot filming this video. I tripped over my words. I forgot words. I was so anxious and just struggling. So watching it back when I was getting it ready to upload, I considered deleting it and thought, no, I don't think I will, for two reasons. One, it takes a lot of effort to make a video, and I really don't want to put that kind of effort in and then delete it. If I'm going to do that, I may as well not even bother. And two, I don't want people to think that they need Brahma quality videos to contribute. I'm autistic, ADHD, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and a whole bunch of other things, and I just don't have the spoons for that kind of thing. I really want to share the things that are interesting to me. I'm sure they're interesting to other people too. But I don't want to be fake. This is me. Sometimes I trip over my words. So I hope you guys will enjoy the video. I hope the ums and ahs won't drive you too crazy. And I hope you'll see you for the next videos. Hello and welcome to the Barely Woven Workshop. I am Carrie. This is my very first ever junk journal. I've made some since, but this was my very first one. I learned a lot making this, as you'll see as we go along. But just before we open it, just to sort of start you and give you a bit of a rundown of what junk journals are if you're not familiar. Junk journals are papercraft really made from junk, really, or items that are unusable. So, you know, scrap cardboard, pieces of paper, just little bits and odds and ends that would have otherwise ended up in the trash. Now, I'm not terribly good at that in terms of I do use some new objects, but I do recycle a lot of things too. So this cover itself is actually made with cardboard from a Huggies nappy wipes box, which is just about the thickest cardboard I think humans have ever created. So it's good and tough. I covered that with brown paper. And then I obviously textured it and painted it, as you can see. This is my first time actually stenciling with texture paste. So again, lots of learning curves in this book. This is my first attempt. I also bought book corners that were far too small for the corners. So yeah, lots of things were learned. And you can see there I've stitched it in the side. When I first made this book, I didn't stitch it. I made the mistake of trying to glue it in. Again, I got started before I knew what I was doing in the traditional ADHD way. And it wasn't until I started to put the book together that I realized my perfidy and went back and fixed it. So you'll see how it looks much tidier from the outside than it does on the inside, but that's okay. So on the front cover here, I've got, this is some paper I actually made. So obviously recycled paper made into paper. I stitched that onto some lace, which I obviously glued to the cover, and created a bunch of little bits and pieces to put on the front, including some handmade receipts, which you'll see closer up later. This little bracket for the front here, I couldn't find one that I liked, so I actually cut these individual elements out on Cricut and glued them together and created my own bracket because I couldn't find something that I really liked. So I'm just going to double check that I've got you in frame before I start. Yes, I do. Huzzah. Oh, no, let me double check. Yes, okay. Because nothing worse than being completely off frame. So as we open it, this is covering the catastrophe where I started to glue stuff and it went horribly wrong. So you'll get an idea pretty quickly, but just to show you, you can see where I've sewn each of the signatures in. Lots of emergency surgery had to be done to save this book. So I have learnt from that. I have not learnt to slow down and learn how to do things before getting started, but I have learned how to do them better. So just inside the front cover, I've glued and stitched some, can't think of the word, book paper. What do you call it? Can't think of the word, like cardstock, you know, the 12 by 12 cardstock. Couldn't think of the word. So this is also the first time in this book I'd ever stitched on paper or cardboard. So some of them are a little wonky. I learned a lot, as I said, you'll hear me say that a lot. So in this I've got some little elements where I've printed off either images I found on Pinterest or images I've purchased in, what do you call it? God, brain fog and trying to present is not a good combination. Like purchasing the images. So for example, these receipts, these are actually printed on greaseproof paper, but the electronic files I purchased from Etsy, and then I was able to print them out sort of as many as I need. But I printed these on just regular kitchen greaseproof paper, so they recreate the receipts really, really well. So that's really exciting. I better get this out so you can actually see it. That's an image I got from Pinterest, another created receipt. That was the cover of a journal. I loved the cover, but the paper was lined with thick, like marked lines. And if you're a line hating person too, you'll understand what I mean. Most of these images in the backgrounds of these papers, there's some papers that are just like found papers, but some of these papers here were actually images I downloaded either from Pinterest or purchased them, and also overlaid in some cases, if you can see there, with some of the digital images I found on Etsy. So I would not be selling this. So if any of these are your images, I'm more than happy to credit you. But I mean, you know, congratulations, Leonardo da Vinci, you did a great job. But this is just for my own interest. So none of this is actually going to be sold. But where possible, I purchased the images. A lot of images on Pinterest, unfortunately, don't follow back to the original creator. So they become very hard to track down and either tag or give credit or pay for the images themselves. So where possible, I have purchased images, but some of them were just blank and I had to find them somewhere. So second page, you can see here I've got a little clip. I've just glued a paper clip to a butterfly, and I've sewn a flap book with a note card there that we can write on. And that's just, got to make sure I tuck them all together so that that doesn't fall out. There we go. This is some vintage wrapping paper that I found at the secondhand store. I really love it. You can tell by how yellowed it is. I didn't have a lot of that, so I've used that in a few projects. And I also glued another book space in there to write in. I do actually intend to use this book once I've filmed it. I'm going to actually use this as a keepsake book, but I didn't want to glue everything in and then have to hide everything as I showed it to you. So I thought I'll show it to you guys first. So I've got some more created tags in there. So these were the ones where I actually made triplicate pockets and sewed them together. I had sort of got a little bit of the idea of what I was doing by this point. So I've also got some more stitched around tags. See, I got very excited about stitching things at this point. I wanted to stitch everything that's sat down. Some lovely, I don't even know what you would call it. It's professionally made, but it's kind of sort of almost like a textured tissue paper. It was really lovely. I got it in a few different colors. I've used it very sparingly because I knew I only had a small amount. Some more here. I've got my little cards to write some little notes on. And I've got, these were some of the, excuse me, the like oversize journaling cards that were available through the Reject Shop here in Australia. They've unfortunately stopped making them, which is a real bummer because they were really, really cool. And you can see there, that's the center of one of the signatures. So a lot of these images are stacked on top of each other and then printed out. So I'm planning to glue sort of photographs into these spaces. And that's the other half of that paper. And I've got some more, that's the other half of that vintage paper. So we're on the other half of that signature now. And again, same as the first side, some more of these little stitched in tri-folder holding things, technical term. Gosh, I'm telling you, you know, of all the things I've lost, I miss my mind the most. So the next signature here, I've got a nice little fold in. This one was exciting to make. I actually saw how to make this on YouTube and I quickly went and made it because I couldn't wait. I've got no idea who it was that the video was. I can't remember it at all, I'm afraid. But some more stitched little cards there. More like I said, I stitched everything that sat still long enough, so they're all stitched as well. Got a bit excited about stitching. Another little tuck in there. And I've also made a little band there with some little images I found on Pinterest. Some of these I had actually stuck somewhere else and decided to use them, so I've just ripped them off. So they're okay. If I actually wanted to use them as journal cards, I could probably stick something on the back, but I think I just like them for how they look. I got this paper from Eckersley's, oh golly whiz, about 8 years ago, and hoarded it for like 7.5 because I just couldn't think of anything that was good enough to use it for. So I ended up putting it in this because the texture is fantastic, but it's very hard to stick things to. So I tried to sort of stick a piece of paper to the back of it to make a tip in. Now, I actually didn't cut this before I stuck it down, and I actually tried to cut this while it was glued down. Like I said, many mistakes were made. I highly recommend you don't do that, that you do it before you glue it in, because golly whizzes are difficult. So just some more cards, more stitching, just for something different. Again, lots of Leonardo da Vinci sort of featuring in this one. I really loved these papers. I just think they're so nice. This is actually a vintage and true vintage, not just like calling stuff from when we were kids vintage, but this goes back to 1976. And this was actually in a library book that I got secondhand, that I have used some of the pages in this book. It was falling apart, the spine was broken, the pages are very, very, I can't think of the word, like darkened over time. So perfect for what I wanted for, but obviously not. Most people don't want to read it in that condition. So, but that was actually inside the front cover, and I was like, oh, fantastic. I can't wait to use that. Got a couple more journal cards there. That one's actually not stitched. That's part of the printing, but that's what gave me the idea to stitch literally everything that sat still. So a lot of stitching in this book. That's the middle of that signature there. Some more of these papers. I just love these papers. This was a line of Papercraft. Papercraft is what I use most of the papers that I can get a hold of. They had a whole run of really lovely green and purple and pink papers in about 2023, 24. Just gorgeous. I'm so disappointed that I can't get them anymore. They are just, I love them. Absolutely peak aesthetic for me. Just trying some new techniques here. I've got a little bit of a torn paper across the back there, and then a little tip-in pocket. I've also got a textured index card with a little what is the word? If this is your first time seeing me too, and here comes my cat now just to keep it interesting. If this is your first time seeing me, I have a few things going on. I have neurodivergence as well as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Marcel assorted. I have many, many reasons why I have brain fog. So if I find if I have trouble finding words, you know why. Unfortunately, some days it's worse than others, but that's reality. So I'm not going to wait for perfect conditions to film. This is me. So little card, can't think of the name, but that's another little card in there that just fits in that little tip in. This was also when I started using the roller texture thing. I can't think of the word, that I got off Marketplace, and everything that sat still got put through that as well. So it got stitched and embossed. So it was an exciting time to be paper. And these little guys are just more of the same of what I had in the rest of the earlier part of the book. Let's tuck those back in before we go forward. So another tip in here. This one actually turned out quite good. This was actually a mistake that I tried to fix. So it looks like a map, but it actually opens out into a little journal book. I had folded something and it just went horribly wrong. So I tried to put some paper on the front of it, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was like a secret map that opens up into a, yeah. It took me longer than I want to really admit to try and make that line up. I don't think I would do that again, but I'm happy to know that that's what it looks like if you do that. So that's the other side of that paper, and then that's the end of that signature. So like I said, a lot of Leonardo da Vinci papers used in this. Coming into the next signature, this is, I was starting to branch out with some new ideas that I'd seen on YouTube at this point. So I've got a little bit of collage. These are some like tip-in journal marker, like bookmark type things that I saw made. I thought they looked fantastic. And I also did a little bit of collage here with everyone's favorite Angela Lansbury. She's fantastic. I love Murder, She Wrote. But I started to actually make some more sort of ephemera at this point. This is when I started to actually branch out a bit and make things. So they all tip into that. This is a bit of an awkward fit at this part of the book, but we make it work. Come on in, you go. No, okay, you go first. Oh, like I said, lots of mistakes making this book that I have since learned from, but you have to start somewhere. So maybe you'll see something I did and go, okay, don't do that. So established to do a little bit more collaging there. So layering up some images, using papers and things like that. Another one of those, I wish I could think of it, like 1 in 5 words is driving me nuts. Like a bookmark type journaling card. So that tips in at the back there. And we've got, there we go. Come on in, you go. You want them a little bit of a tight fit so they don't fall out, but not so tight that you can't get them back in. And then some more little tip-in cards there. I like the torn edges as well. I like untidy rather than too precise, although it is something I struggle with. And another little book here with the little glued on clip. Nice little fold in. This is actually some more paper that I made with some Japanese maple. I don't know if you guys can see that. Some Japanese maple leaves sort of embossed on it. I tried to get them to stick into the paper, but they fell out. But it ended up creating a really nice pattern on the paper. And this is another little sort of collage kind of idea with just some more paper to write on. I didn't really have an idea or a plan when I made this. I just wanted to sort of have a crack and try out some different techniques. That's actually a yellow version of that paper we saw before, but I actually embossed this one with butterflies. I don't know if you can see that sort of clearly there. Trying new techniques on different materials. Now, to a lot of you, these may not be new techniques, but to me at the time they were. So more of that vintage paper, and as you can see, I've distressed it around the edges. I started to get excited about distressing paper. At this point, this is when I got one of the sort of the brushes that you can brush on distress ink. So again, this is another evolution into new techniques. This is a pretty cool clasp. I like this. I've just glued down that die cut so that it actually works as a snap. Again, more stitched on things is a very strong theme, but I started to branch out into a different kind of zigzag, so I'm starting to get fancy. Like I said, we all have to start somewhere, but I am really pleased with this book. I had a lot of fun making it. I learned a lot of things doing it. Things that I've since adapted or evolved for other works, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. And it could have been a disaster, and it came together. So if you're doing something that doesn't seem to be working, hang in there, because you can actually circle back around to okay from disaster. And there's some more. This is a little thing I actually cut out on Cricut, so you can see a little scalloped edge. I didn't realize how small it was when I cut it out, and by that stage I couldn't be bothered making it bigger. So I thought, okay, little mini tip-ins will be working perfectly there. Some more kind of getting a little bit more adventurous with my ephemera creating at this point. Starting to layer up in images. Oops. Another journal card in the back there. I'm starting to lose the sunlight, so I'm just going to try and pick up the pace a little bit. As you can see, some more papers. That's the end of that signature. And then the next signature, got another tip in here. This one was another one of these envelopes I printed a little bigger. And that's some more paper that I've made. I may have to artificially light this part of the video. We'll see how we go. So tuck that in there. And some more papers. Some more of these little handmade receipts. Some more of these index cards. Just some little images. Some more of that. That's the book I was talking about. So you can see how it's got a slightly aged paper look to it. And this was actually a journal space I made. So this is the storage paper with some actual handmade paper written on it. So you can actually write out a full journal or something like that. So that should be interesting. I'll be able to put a story there for whatever images I stack on. Some more there. More of the same. Some more little collaged images and tip-in cards. And another journal card. This was fun. I actually made this for another purpose and didn't know where to put it, so I glued it in the back of this book. I actually textured, I don't know if you can see it in this terrible light now, I textured this book with some texture paste. I wanted to see how it turned out on paper. It's very stiff. I'm not sure I love it. I don't think the page would be terribly useful that way. Certainly okay as an art piece, but I wouldn't want to try and journal in it. But I'd already stuck the flowers together and I went, okay, well, I'll stick it into this book and that can blend in quite nicely. Some more, we're almost at the end there, and then you can see me sort of fixing up the other end as well. And I've just got another journal card on the end there. So it's very good fun. I did learn a lot making this. Oops. I did learn a lot making this. Not bad for a first attempt, but things I would do differently. I would certainly vary, and have done differently since. I would vary the types of techniques that I used. I didn't feel like it when I was making them, but there is a lot of repetition in different techniques and stitching and things like that, and it does tend to feel a little bit the same all the way through. I would also make sure that I put the signatures together and sewed them into the book first, because I can't stress enough that gluing signatures in is a really bad idea. So all in all, not terrible. I'm very happy with it. I love this. I'll never get rid of it. And I do plan to use it as a keepsake journal. So it's not going to just sort of be on a shelf and never looked at. But yeah, so that's my flip through of my first journal. I will have flip throughs of some of my more recent journals, including my bestiary and my little floral diary that I made completely from scratch. They're quite fun. So stay tuned for those and some more of my other mishaps. And hopefully I'll have at least 2 in 5 words next time, though probably not if we're honest. So thank you guys for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.